Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by. Welcome to the Product Management View webinar series. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode. If you would like to ask a question during the presentation, please use the chat feature located in the lower left corner of your screen. If you need to reach an operator at any time, please press *0. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded Wednesday, April 7th, 2010. I would now like to turn the conference over to Val Workman. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Sarah. To those participating through ReadyTalk, Twitter, and those who will be reviewing this webinar as a podcast or flash presentation later, hello. I'd like to welcome you to this new session of the Product Management View series. I'm Val Workman from Ryma Technology Solutions, one of the sponsors of this community. This is an open product management community. If you'd like to present in this webinar series or propose a topic by sending me an email at workmanv@rymatech.com. The PMV is all about distributing the shared experiences of the practitioners within our product management community. Today, the PMV is the world's largest free repository of product management recordings. I'd like to thank ReadyTalk for their generous support of this community effort, and welcome Holly from ReadyTalk, who continues to support our efforts. And, of course, she'd love any feedback you could provide to her in the chat. This is a webinar. This webinar is also sponsored by the LinkedIn Market Sensing Community of Practice, which is an open community of practice for folks interested in improving the practices of market sensing for product managers. We'd like to encourage your participation and pitch in where you can, provide leadership and support. I'll be your moderator today, and it's my pleasure to welcome Kathryn Korostoff, the author of How to Hire and Manage Market Research Agencies, which was written for people who are actual buyers and users of custom market research. We'll also be joined by Esther from QuestionPro and Survey Analytics. Together they'll be presenting today's webinar titled A 10-Point Checklist for Questionnaire Design. For those of you who are using Twitter, you can follow and add additional conversation and questions using the Twitter hashtag #PMV during the webinar and continue conversation after this webinar. I'd encourage you to make comments and ask additional questions on this post as well. I'll also be collecting questionnaires throughout this presentation to address in the question and answer session at the end of the webinar. Please feel free to send in questions and comments to me or share your experiences in the chat section in the lower left corner of ReadyTalk, and we'll try to respond to them in the question and answer session. Now I'm going to pass the control over to Kathryn and Esther to kick off this presentation. Kathryn?
Excellent. Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here, Val, and nice to meet everybody. So I'm going to be kicking off the presentation with what I consider to be 10 fantastic things to cover when you start to think about questionnaire design. Now, before I get too far into it, I just want to kind of set a little bit of context. Typically, when I work with folks who are looking to design a questionnaire that haven't had a lot of experience with it, it's probably because of one of these situations. Maybe you typically work with an outside market research agency and they typically do the questionnaire design, but perhaps you've been asked to do a project in-house, maybe using a tool like QuestionPro or SurveyMonkey or Zoomerang. Or maybe your organization doesn't normally do formal market research, but you have a need to do a survey and you perhaps don't have the budget to go to an outside market research agency. And the third most common scenario I see is where you have a situation where you'd really like to hire a market research agency, but you simply don't have the time to go through the process of writing up an RFP, hiring an agency, and getting them up to speed. These are all very common scenarios these days. Well, luckily there are a lot of options for people who do decide to do their own questionnaire design. Now, in the real world, I would love to see more people have time for very formal questionnaire training. And there are plenty of places to go for more formal questionnaire training if you have the luxury of time and money for such things. At the Research Rockstar website, we have an online class on it. There are wonderful in-person classes hosted by an organization called the Burke Institute. There are lots of other places as well. But if you don't have time to go to a seminar, or if you don't have time to travel at this point, here are 10 tips that you can follow to really make sure that the process goes well for you. This will help you to avoid common mistakes that we do see in questionnaire design. Now, before you start to design a questionnaire, one of the things you have to be really careful about is balancing the perspective. There are two people who are going to be involved in this process, the people who take the survey, the participants, and you, the researcher. Now, from a participant's point of view,